I had an incredible conversation with a friend of mine who happens to be a really brilliant gentleman. That makes him sound so old. He's in his 40s.
I want you to describe me as a gentleman, Lauren.
Gentleman.
Yeah.
I just aged myself. He's in his 40s. And he's so smart that he's having these very cerebral, intellectual conversations with himself about the quality of the woman he's in a relationship with. And can she level up? And does she fit the mold of the woman that I would want to mother my children? And he was really having an amazing conversation with me. And I don't want to say dissecting, but exploring the possibilities. And I was asking myself silently, not discussing it with him, is it because he's so smart and he's a little bit older and he was able to have that conversation? Because I think when we're young, we're in love, and I just don't know if we're foreseeing
not thinking
complications that you don't know about.
Maybe not thinking with the right brain. You know, like
I think, or the parenting thing is like next level of designing a relationship. And designing is a funny word, but I do believe that we have to start designing your marriage, your future, your home, your life, your love, your family, your children.
You came to the right podcast.
Well,
we agree.
You do?
Yeah,
okay,
we just did a whole podcast on creating your own future and designing your life and being thoughtful and being purposeful. And so many people are settling because society tells you need to settle by a certain age. I mean, it's...
Girl, I said this in that conversation. We are being raised in a society that is teaching us about good enough. We are marrying Mr. and Mrs. Good Enough. We are living in a space that's good enough. We are accepting good enough. And a lot of the transformational work that I do and the retreat work with women and men is to allow yourself, like the word extraordinary seems so big. Like we all have a blessed life. I have a blessed life. I live in gratitude. I live in gratefulness. I'm so blessed for my life. But I'm still reaching for extraordinary because I can and because I will and because that's the commitment that I've made to myself. So if you're looking for an extraordinary partner, why not? Like why? We're settling all around it. I mean,
I think that word makes people uncomfortable.
It makes people uncomfortable.
I think it makes people uncomfortable that someone would want an extraordinary life in each area. You said today on the car ride up when we were having this conversation, you said, I don't want to be that person that says, oh, but he's a good dad. Explain what you said, but.
I never want to be described as but. Like, so for example, if you met me and you're like, hey, Michael, you're okay at business, but you're a great dad. Like, I would hate that. Or if you're like, hey, you're a great dad, or you're like, you're an okay dad, but you're great at fitness. Like, I never want to be the guy that's the but, right? I want to be like,
but, you know what I'm saying? Like
meaning
the daddying is making up for what you're not in other areas.
No, just meaning like if like basically someone's saying like, okay, you're okay here, but that's okay because you're great
He wants
here.
to be extraordinary in every
I
area.
want to hold myself accountable. Like I want to be in shape. I want to have a good business. I want to be a good husband. I want to be a good. I don't want to just do one and not the other. Does that make sense?
I think it's amazing. And I think that you are unique and a unicorn, and there aren't enough people who are brave enough or committed enough to high potential. And I really like to discuss the possibility, right? Because we're learning, and even if it's scary and uncomfortable, of never falling below that high standard that you hold for yourself. And that's not an easy space to live in and to be in. But what if you allowed yourself, you made a personal commitment to never travel below that standard? Like,
I think that the word extraordinary makes, if you say to your whole entire family and all your friends, I want to be extraordinary, what it does is it maybe points out where they're not being extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's uncomfortable. But instead, what you're saying is we should all up level to be extraordinary.
I think you're right. And I hadn't thought about that. I think you make a great point. It is uncomfortable. There's something about it that doesn't feel humble, but I think we need to get uncomfortable. And even in my family, like with my children, I'm like, get uncomfortable. Do it or don't do it. And if you're going to do it, come high or hell water, freaking do it with commitment. Like even, this might seem silly, we have a lot of family meals together, as many as we physically can. Even tonight when I leave here, I'm going to grind. I'm going to go to Westlake, pick up my son from football from here. And people listening, we're really far away because I want to be there to pick him up. Then when I come home, and we're going to have dinner. And if my daughter's setting the table and she's phoning it in because she's rushing or disconnected, I'll look at the table and I'll be like, what do you, like, I didn't teach you how to set the table like that. If you're going to set the table right.
You know, I think we are living in an interesting time where people want to feel good rather than actually be good. And what I mean by that is like people are like, the reason it's uncomfortable when people say, oh, like I want to be extraordinary is because if you say that, maybe people are thinking, well, then that means other people can't be, right? Or other people know they aren't. And I think we're getting in this weird place now where people feel bad about saying they want to be great. And and I don't think this has ever been before. And
I think you're right.
And I personally don't like it because if I'm, as a new dad, like I want my children to demand the most from themselves. And of course I want them to be good and all that, but I want them to hold themselves to
a high standard,
yeah,
level up.
Yeah. I mean, listen, when I was a kid, like I had a half Japanese mother. So like, there was no like, of course you had to hold yourself high standard. Like compliments were rare.
Yeah.
And so, I think it's uncomfortable because people may feel they're out of integrity in certain areas of their life. And it's easier to just say, don't worry, I'm okay, as opposed to saying, you know what, I could try a little harder.
It's such an amazing conversation because, the word extraordinary, let's not like misinterpret it, right? So extraordinary could be that you're having a really shitty day and you don't feel like doing anything, but you took 11 minutes to go listen to a meditation to reset yourself. That might be your extraordinary moment for the day. It doesn't mean that it's big and beautiful and fabulous. It means that you're connected. And I love what you said about integrity. If you're meeting yourself with integrity, that might just mean that you're listening and you're dialed in and you're present and, holding yourself to that standard and living in integrity means a lot of different things, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's easier to
honest.
Just kind of phone it in, but like, it takes discipline to be great in areas of life. And that doesn't just mean in your business, but like with your friend, it takes discipline to be a good wife or a good husband, a good father, a good mother, all these things, right? You can't, and I think people telling themselves that they don't have to hold themselves to that standard, but then also demanding those results are living in delusion.
I think some people don't even feel worthy to do it, to be honest. I mean, I posted something the other day and I'm spending a lot of time thinking about this. I'm writing a body of work on it, but like protecting your boundaries, like be willing to be worthy of protecting your own boundaries. And that might be the boundaries of carving out time for love and romance. And that might be,
let me ask you a question, Lauren. Would you rather me not take that time to do that? I had to, like that's the thing is I think joking aside, I want my wife to know that at any given moment she could be desired like that, in the middle of even the kids are like, because I think also again, like people start phoning it in relationships like, oh, like the kids are there, so we better not do it. No, of course it's hard.
I mean, it is hard to get into the mood and to be in that sexy space when the kids are on the other side of the door. Like I do get that. I mean, I'm gonna keep it real. Like, yes, set the mood, but it is hard. Like sometimes you have to like roll up a towel and stick it underneath the door crack as if I think it's muffing up